Okay, let's take a deeper look at VI real quick before I turn you loose with the tutor. Now, one weird thing is that H, J, K, and L can be used for movement. Let's insert a bunch of junk into this file. So we can see here that we're kind of in visual mode, so I do have an indicator in the corner here that shows me the line and column number. This is not necessarily enabled by default, so I'm going to write the file as the letter A, because why not? And so now I might be able to use the arrow keys. So J goes down, K goes up, L and H move left and right. Well, right and left, because that wouldn't make sense, would it? So H moves left, J moves up, or down, sorry. So H moves left, J moves down, K moves up, and L moves the cursor right. Why is that? Well, believe it or not, VI is so old, it comes from a time when keyboards didn't necessarily have arrow keys. Yeah. Have you ever seen a computer that had a keyboard without arrow keys? Long time ago, huh? Yeah, that's how old VI is. Exciting, isn't it? So that comes in handy sometimes, though, because sometimes you will be connected in odd ways to a system, maybe through a serial port, maybe through a broken terminal, maybe through, like, you're using some broken software, you're dealing with really, just a terrible situation, just in terms of software or other functionality. And so the arrow keys use extended escape sequences or extended control codes. Well, with VI, there's a backup plan, and you can use the keys for navigation. That's why it has an insert mode and a visual mode, and like a command mode. So when I hit I to toggle insert, we can see that insert is down here at the bottom. And then when I want to get out of that, I can press escape. Although on some systems you have to do Control C. So it varies a little bit on each system. So I will put you in insert mode. Escape on most systems will take you out of insert mode, although with some systems you'll have to do Control C. Now, what about some other handy VI shortcuts? So Control F does page down, Control B does page up. Of course, you can do page up and page down on most systems as well for keyboards that have page up and page down. Same deal with the arrow keys. It's like, well, there were keyboards that didn't have a page up and page down key like 50 years ago. Number Shift G to go for to that line. So I'm down here in the middle of the file, and so if I do 1 G, capital G, look at that, I'm taken back to the top of the file. Or 5 capital G, 5th line, or 32 capital G, I'm taken to line 32. Now notice it counts from 0. So that's why it says line 31. Oh, well, no, it's the end of the file. Okay, hang on. So back at line 1. Now, there's something really interesting happening in line 1. I don't know. You gotta have an eye for details. You gotta ask questions like, why is this doing this? So I move the cursor down. So it says line 2, 2, 1. So line 2, position 1. And I move the cursor up to the top, and it says line 1, position 0, -1. What on earth does that mean? It means that when I go into insert mode, it's going to insert a character at the first position. And so the cursor is on the second position, and so I insert another, and the cursor moves. And so when I go out of insert mode, I'm at position 1, I'm at position 2, so there is a character there. So now it's showing 0, -1. Now if I enter space, and we go to the top line, see how it's like from a cursor standpoint, the cursor is in the same place, but 1, 1 indicates there's a character there, whereas this indicates there is no actual character there. There is literally nothing on that line. The cursor has to be somewhere. The cursor can't be at the 0th position because that doesn't make sense. So that's what the 0, -1 means, is that where the cursor is right now, there is no character. The number Shift G is really super handy because you can, 20 capital G, 2 capital G, 25 capital G, and you can kind of see that when it's in visual mode, you can see what you've typed here. This is not always turned on though. You can turn this line on and off if you want sort of more space. This is also showing you where you are in the file, so you can do that. It's like you're at the very bottom of the file. So it's like we're 50% of the way through the file, 80% of the way through the file, 90% of the way through the file, and now we are at the bottom of the file. See, isn't that handy? So you can also do just Shift G to go to the end of the file. It's like, I don't know what the last number of the file is. All right, just capital G goes to the thing, and 1G takes you to the top. How cool is that? Now, we might have some text here. Such as the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, which uses all of the alphabetic keys on your keyboard. Woo! Did you learn something there? No, I don't know, it's fine. So we'll come back to that in a second. We might also have like a for loop if you're a programmer. So like for, I don't know, I'm gonna get this slightly wrong. Notice some things happening here. It's giving me some subtle hints about some stuff. And maybe I'm gonna, you know, let's see, I'm a 3 spaces person. Alright, so this thing with the curly bracket might be something that you would normally encounter as a programmer. If you're not a programmer, that is okay. Use your imagination, pretend it makes sense. It's fine. So everything that's inside here, I've indented 3 spaces, and then inside here, this is indented 3 spaces. For programmers, this makes it a little easier to read, theoretically. And so, you know, maybe I don't want to hit the arrow 6 times to go over here if I'm looking at this. So I can do Shift 6, and it'll automatically take me to the first not white space character. So this could be spaces, tabs, null characters, whatever. Yeah, it could be a null character. That'd be all right. And it'll take me to the first non-alphanumeric character. So I can also hit 0 to go back to the beginning of the line if I would like to go on to the beginning of the line. I can do Shift 4 to go to the end of the line. That's a $sign, so that's pretty a lot of fun. And then W will go to the beginning of the next word or punctuation character. So I can just do W, and it'll just take me on to the next word, which is maybe a little bit more handy when you're doing, you know, things like this. So W and B will move you forward and backward a word at a time. So you can do W to move forward and B to move backward a word at a time. It looks for white space to deal with this. Sometimes punctuation can throw you off. So I'm going to add some punctuation here, and we do W. It's like W is taking me to the dot. Maybe you want to go back. Shift to W. We'll skip over punctuation marks as well. So B to go backwards. Shift B, and then Shift W. So it's subconscious. So B goes backwards, and see there's the dot. And if I do B again to go back, and then W to go forward, it's going to get me on the dot. Do W and do Shift W, and it's going to skip over the punctuation mark. So B and W go forward and backward. Shift B and W will skip punctuation marks. So it's just sort of a modifier on an existing command. Your mission here is to go through Vim Tutor, and VI is pretty much the same across all distros. I will say that Vim has an enhanced mode which can change the behavior of the editor a bit, but it's off by default, I think, on most of these distros. So I don't think you'll have to worry too much about that. Now, if you are a programmer, you can turn on syntax highlighting and some other stuff, and that is a lot of fun because, hey, syntax highlighting is always fun. But I think that you really, I mean, when I say that this is the most important, learning text file manipulation is really super important. And the editor is the first step. There's actually a whole bunch of other commands we're going to learn. It's going to be crazy. But learning to use the editor effectively is very good. And you're just going to have to knuckle under and learn VI. I mean, you can kind of get by with Nano or Pico, and you may, have some colleagues that work on Linux systems that do most of their work in Nano or Pico, but trust me, just go ahead and learn VI. Your life is going to be easier for it. If you're going to have to spend any significant amount of time doing this kind of work on systems, just go ahead and learn VI. You'll thank me later. Maybe. It sounds very presumptuous of me, doesn't it? But no, VI is really good. VI is a really good experience. All right, now the third editor is Emacs, and it's not installed by default. We'll install it. Now, I'm not going to get into Emacs in this course, and I really doubt seriously that you will encounter Emacs on any certification exam beyond just being aware of what it is, what it does, and why it's useful. Ta-da! Emacs. Now, it came up in a graphical environment. It does work and is enabled for the command line as well. It just knew that we were running in a graphical environment, and so it gave us the graphical version. Doesn't necessarily going to happen. It's not necessarily going to happen like that on all distros, But Emacs is, you know, I don't. It's Emacs is just its own thing. Let me let me give you the description of Emacs. Emacs is a family of text editors that are characterized by their extensibility. The manual for the most widely used variant, GNU Emacs, describes it as the extensible, customizable, self-documenting, real-time display editor. It is an insanely powerful editor, especially if you're a programmer, but not just if you're a programmer. You can extend it, you can write your plugins, automation, that kind of stuff for this editor to the nth degree. And if this is like, if manipulating text files is something that you do as a large part of your job, then learning Emacs and learning it well will serve you really well in your career. It is probably more powerful than VI. It's a lot more complicated than VI. There's kind of a holy war a little bit between Vim VI fans and Emacs fans. I don't really see it as mutually exclusive. I see them as slightly different tools to solve slightly different versions of those programs. Emacs really is going to be something that is going to be around 100 plus years. VI is going to be around 100 plus years. Once you learn it and once you like get clued into how it works, it's really great. If you know Common Lisp really well, you will probably like Emacs. That's a programming language. If you want to write customizations, plugins, extensions in Lisp, you'll probably really like Emacs because you can. I mean, it basically is. Well, you'll get into it another time. Emacs is not installed by default on most distros these days. That was not true 10 or 15 years ago, but you should be aware of it, and you should be aware of how flexible it is. Go read the Wikipedia page on it. You could probably read the manual entry on the page. I haven't shown you how to get to the manual pages yet, but it's coming next pretty much. So yeah, Emacs. Emacs is the third text editor that should be on your radar, but for certification purposes, I don't think you'll have to learn how to use it.